Hey guys, Sam from Overland Rough Racks. Welcome to another episode of What Are They Up To Now? Today we're talking R1S and R1T roof rack installation and installation tips. We're going to be doing a more in-depth video. We're sending out racks now. We're finally launching them. We're getting them out there to the public. And moreover, thank you for the purchase of the rack system for your R1T or R1S. And what we have to do, we've got basic instructions that you can download on our site at overlandroughracks.com under installation instructions. There's a common instruction sheet that helps you build the side points of the racks, how to use the quarter round extrusion. But I want to offer some tips ahead of time to show you how to build the front and the back half of the R1S. It has two halves, a front half and a back half, and the R1T is built like the front of the R1S. So I want to kind of combine the two. I want a quick installation tips to walk you through to get you started. Again, we'll be doing a more updated one and really dive in as much as we can on a later video, but this should help you get started so you can start enjoying your rack. So what I'm going to be doing is on the next cut into the video, I'm going to focus in down. I'm going to be out of the slot of the picture, but I'm going to be kind of working in this area, and it's all you're going to be looking at is me working on this portion of it. So I'll be cut off, but I'll be talking and I'll be explaining this, so stay tuned. Okay guys, this is part two of assembling the R1S and the R1T roof rack. Now I'm doing the R1S, it's the most complicated out of the both, but if you cover this, you can do actually the same with the R1T roof rack. The only difference is that it's a two-piece rack. It's larger on the R1S. So this is the front rack, and then you have a separate rack in the back that would connect to it and make it as one. Same premise for the R1T. It's shorter here and it's still two-piece, but the process goes through the same way. So as we get started, a couple things, just a key notes. This is where you use one of our 3/16, either the spin wrench here, or if you have a socket, again, by a crank and not a impact wrench. Extremely helpful. ORR Kit 2, that's all the bolts you'll need for this front half here, except for the T-nuts. So we talked about the T-nuts and putting this thing in here. I'm gonna grab a couple of the T-nuts here, and I'm gonna need 6 for this installation. So you're going to grab there, we have another kit here, and it's part of the front fascia connection point, which is right here. In this kit, there's enough pieces here that will also allow you to put the fascia together, and you'll get your tie downs on the top here for the top part of the fascia to connect to. So first step is that you have 6 connection points. So on the top part of the extrusion, and these will come into play later, on the very top part of the extrusion, I go on the middle one here, and I put 6 of them. And they're just gonna sit there because once I put the side panel on, you won't be able to access this slide port here to do that. So I like to do it in the beginning. You could do it before you do the other side, but I like to get it out of the way. To make the installation simple, once you've did all your hardware, I don't wanna open a pack. The first thing I like to do is I put one in the center position here, in the center part of the extrusion here. And what this is gonna allow you to do is get everything balanced. Now sometimes it's a little bit tough getting in because it's been machined, so get your wrench and turn it in a little bit there and you're good to go. And what I do is I count my 4 spots, 1, 2, 3, and I'll go to my 4th one and I will slide this over just like that. And I'll tell you why I haven't done the 5th in a second. So go to the center hole, get it lined up, get it started, and that will get you a solid foundation to work from. So what I do is I get it started to about halfway. I come and I'm going to check this one here. This was not quite in straight, so I'm going to back this thing out real quick, make sure it's straight, and then I'm going to get it in there. And now I've secured it to the point to where now I actually have a balance point for all these points. So I can kind of scoot this back over now. I've got something to work with. I line up here and I line up here, and I grab my screws here. I go to the middle part of the extrusion and I line it up and I get it started, and this could all be done by hand. I go to the next one, I'll drop it in here, get it started, and there you have it. So now I've got the foundation of the rack, the front part of it already taken care of. So now that I've done that, I'm going to place all these bolts here in position on the one side. And what I'm going to do after that, again, I'll do all 3 in here, and I don't tighten them down, I just get them started. I want everything you know, just not even finger tight, just a little bit before. I want a little bit of play in there. So you do that on this side, and then what you do is you go to the other side and you take the fascia out of the side bracket and you put it over there on the other side and you do the same thing. So what you always got to remember, you'll have a driver's side and a passenger side. You'll know which side is which based upon the logos. The logo will be on the outside of the passenger and then the outside of the driver. And then you always will have a logo right here in the fascia, so you know what side it goes on the driver or the passenger side as well. So I'm going to walk through, get the rest of this done, and I'll be back in a second once we've got it complete. Okay guys, we're back here now for part one. And what we've made is, we've made our own T-nuts. We talked about in one of the videos with Kyle from Out of Spec Reviews, is that T-nut that we were buying, basically out in the world, so to speak, there's one company making them in abundance. They would rust. They said they were stainless steel with nickel plate, and they weren't. They were absolutely steel. It was just lame. I hated it. So we made our own drop-in stainless steel T-nuts with black oxide. And what you want to do, and anywhere where the T-nut goes, you got to put them on the extrusion first. Like you have 6 holes on the fascia, you've got to put 6 of them in here so you know that they're in there prior, so you don't have to take the fascia back off. What I like to do is like to get them lined, to lay it up here like this and kind of get them in approximate areas where they're going to need to be, so it's easier for me to do the install as I get closer. So you line them up with them there. I'm going to try to do this gingerly here. I turn this over like this. I bring this over and I lift it up, and what I want is I want to get one started here. Once I got one started in there, I kind of hold it like that. I bring the second one over, get the second one, and I kind of slide it. And this thing's slidable, guys, all the way across. And once you have that in there just like that, you're almost done. And there's a couple key things I'm going to show you. The big one is keep your thumbs on this here. The round part of it goes towards the front here, just like that, okay? So you hold it here just like that. You put your washer. You put one of the 1/4-20 nuts on here. You go to this same here. You do that process all the way across the rack on both sides. And again, it has it here. You put one here, and now you're kind of home free now. So now you've got that one started. And what you want to do is you want to leave about a little over 1/8 of an inch on this one side over here, right? You leave about 1/8 of an inch down. So you're going to need that, and I'll show you why in a second. I'm going to grab my wrench over here. Where'd it go? Here it is. And I'm just going to snug this down for right now. Wind it. So that's snug and it's in place now. So now it's going anywhere. And that's pretty much what you're going to have to do for both sides. And it looks like I dropped one of my T-nuts here, which I did. So I'll just grab another one here. Okay guys, so I'm going to grab a couple of the tools and the necessary tools to get this thing done. And the biggest thing I'd say is that you use hand tools and not power tools. I use the 3/16, this Allen wrench here. I love these because you can turn them this way, turn it this way, torque them down. I like a 7/16, a small socket, so it's not this big wrench when you're handling delicate pieces. So that's what I'm going to be using now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece off. So I put on the 1/4 round extrusion. So if you could take a look and look at the 1/4 round, that round part goes towards the front of the vehicle, right in front of the fascia. It's important to put your T-nuts on before you put this on. So you slip your 6 T-nuts on there, you slide it through, you put yourself your 6 nuts and bolts on there on the T-nuts. And the big thing with this thing here is close the gap here in the center, and you want to leave a little over 1/8 of an inch slot right there. What that's going to allow you to do is when you drop this over, you're going to drop it on here, it actually fits in place and it fills that gap. But I want to talk about the side of this first. So putting the rack together is pretty dang simple. You take the front extrusion and the back extrusion, you put a couple of bolts in here, put a couple of bolts on the other side, and take the other side of it and do the same thing, and you create yourself a foundation to work from here. And then you put the other pieces in. The most important thing when we're doing this thing, prior to putting on this piece here, you want to slide your 6 fascia nuts on there as well, like you did on the fascia. You want to stick these here first because they're not twist offs, because I don't want them coming out. You can't drop them in. So you want to access it by having this off. You slide them, put them in proximity where you need, put on these sides. And what you want to do is you want to leave them loose. I want you to have this thing to be able to move like this. And these brackets right here, this one's a little snug right now because I've tightened it down. I'll have to unloosen that here. But what you want is you want this all loose. This stabilizing pedestal bracket allows the fascia to sit on there and line up. So first things first, you'll put this all together, keep these loose, drop this in, again, keeping it loose. So now you have the foundation here to work from, and that's the front end of your rack. So we're assuming that you've already put together the fascia again with a quarter round, just like that. You've closed your gap in the center here, right? You've got your logo, it would always be on the passenger side. And what you want to do is you want to simply set it here in place, and you want to get it lined up with your T-nuts over here first. Kind of get them lined up here so they drop in place. Dropped in place, and there it goes. It dropped right into the slot. So there's a gap in that bracket that the quarter round fits into, that a screw or bolt fits into there and kind of pulls it all together. But moreover, check it out. This is all loose, and you can kind of manipulate it and get it going. So I'm going to grab a couple of bolts here. And these will be just quick bolts here, just for a reference of what we're doing. And I won't tighten them down, but I just want to kind of get them lined up. So you take and lift this up, put this screw down in there. There's riv nuts there. It started. You take your other one, line it up here, and again, everything's loose, so you can manipulate this. So we've got that one there. I'm going to cut across to here. I'm going to get the one here on the side. I'm going to push this down a little bit. There we go. Okay. So this is not sitting exactly right. Let me get this one done over here first. Lift that up. Got one started. There we go. Put this one here. Put that one there. And now we've got our other one here, and it's all started. So now we've got a rack lined up. And I think what I might have to do with this one here, I might have to loosen this bracket. And again, it's one of the things, like I said, it's important to have everything loose so you can maneuver things. Okay, so now that's loose. Grab my bolt. Take this here, there you go. Now it's loose, now it lined up because it was kind of torqued in there. So now that you have all these bolts kind of started on here, it's kind of taken shape. So what last thing you would do, and I'm only gonna put on 3 just for the video's sake. I'm gonna grab 3 nuts and 3 washers. I'm gonna drop them here. Actually, I'll do the 4. Might as well do it the whole way. So you drop that in here. You drop that on there. I'll do one on the edge here and one on the end. But mind you, when you're doing the installation, you're gonna wanna do all 6. And what the heck, let's just do it while we're here. And it'll be considered kind of a complete installation. So got that started there. Started there. Washer there. There we go. So now that we got everything on there, what I like to do first, because it kind of establishes this angle, this is going to cinch together. I'm going to step around here. And the first one that I'm going to tighten up is going to be the one that goes into the quarter round right here. This stabilization quarter round keeps it from having harmonics and making noise, but it also serves as the line here. Everybody kind of goes through. Look at that, just sucked in there. You tighten that one up. You've established what it is there. You go to the other side and do the same thing. And again, mind you guys, nothing is tight on this thing until you have to. So look at this. It kind of got straight. It pulled the extrusion in place. So now what you can do is you can go to the extrusion on top and tighten these 3 up here. There it goes. It's straightened out as well. And now you can tighten these here. And what I like to, because aluminum binds, I give it, we're trying to figure out the torque spec, but it's about 10 pounds of pressure. Nice little tight where you can feel it snug. And then I give another, just a little kick, and then you're good to go. So now we've established this side. We haven't tightened anything else up here. We're going to come to the other side, and we're going to do the same thing on the extrusion over here. Tighten it. It becomes super snug the whole way. There's no gap in the center. You tighten these up here, and now that front face is attached. And you go to these here, do these. Tighten that down. Tighten that down. We'll go around to the other side. We'll tighten this one down as well. There we go. There we go, tighten that down. And last, now that we've got that all done, and it's actually really solid, we take and we tighten these up here. These are the T-nuts that you slipped in the extrusion on the top. 1/4 inch stainless steel. They don't rust now. We talked about that in one of my other videos. The one that the manufacturer was selling me was rusting, so I had my own made. And it's just fantastic. Black oxide, stainless steel T-nuts. We make those ourselves, and now I don't have to rely on anybody giving me bad product. Tighten it. Tighten it. And these have nylock on them, so again, you get it nice and snug, and in one kick and you're good to go. You don't have to over crank this stuff. You'll never have to, and you don't need to use power tools. It's not good to use them. Use everything by hand. Get it snug, one kick and you're good to go. And that thing's solid as a rock now. So there's a lot happening up here. We're not just a rack company where, you know, we have a couple side panels and we throw on a fascia and we're good to go. There's a lot of engineering to get this all to match up perfectly. To have, there's like 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 bolts here, another 6 here, because there's some underneath here, another 13 that's, you know, 26, 30 some odd bolts and nuts to get all lined up here. It lines up perfectly. Absolutely incredible. If you get the sound dampener, it's good to put on prior to putting it onto the rack because it sits awful close. You would tap it on here. And what that looks like is, looks kind of like this here. It's got the bushing so it doesn't scratch the roof. You start it, and obviously with length, you kind of tap it on, and it kind of conforms to it. And that you can go all the way across with that, and they come cut to length. And what that'll do, again, it gives you noise suppression and it won't vibrate on the top of the vehicle. And it just kind of finishes this thing off as well. So you do that prior to installing the roof rack. So now that's the front half. There's only one other part that you have to do with this. And I'll turn this a little bit. Is attach the L brackets here that attach to the port adapters. There's one here and there's 2 on the back. If you have rock lights, you put them on here as well. And you're good to go. So that's the front half of the rack. I'm going to spin this around. And we're going to jump into, in a couple of minutes, we're going to jump into the back half. So the last part of the extrusion is hooked up right here. It's another 50-inch extrusion. And it goes, what goes here, there's a bracket that goes in between here and a piece of extrusion that sits here that locks the front and back together. So you'll do that very last. So you build the back half and save this 50-inch to bond the two together with extrusion, a plate with 3/8-inch bolts that go in here as well. And that'll attach the two, and then you have your complete rack. So stay tuned. We'll be talking about the back half here shortly, and we'll go from there. Okay, guys, this is the part where it's going to get really fun for the R1S. This is the back half. And before I go into the back half of the installation, I want to talk about something that is really has come around that's going to be really good. Let me grab one thing here. I just had it out, and I ended up putting it back like a dum-dum. Which I have is our saddle bracket, which is the feature of this whole deal right now. This is where it gets good, guys. It's been a lot of fun helping create this thing here. It's our saddle bracket, and this goes on the installation, and this is what helps contour the bed or the roof rack to the vehicle, okay? And again, same instructions here, 7/16. You can use a socket. You can use your 3/16 Allen wrench as well. And this is when we're gonna need a 5/32, which we have right there, because that's a button head screw. We're gonna grab our other piece here, and there we have it. So this is what we're gonna need for this part of the installation. So saddle bracket, guys, this thing is cool. Rivet nuts on here. We've got we have hole positions here for a top and a bottom. And the cool thing about what we're doing here is that I'm gonna put this thing over here like this. I'm going to talk about the hardware. I'm going to separate it. And right now, guys, I'm going to go over, I'm going to separate this hardware, and I'm going to show you why and how we came up with this and how it works. And guys, you're not going to want to miss this. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to point down. I'm going to keep talking, but I'm just going to do a little bit of a close-up. I'm going to point down here. I'm going to get in there just like that. There we go. I'm going to move in. Put the camera down just a smidge. There we go. And there we have it. So we're going to start recording, keep recording. And you're just going to hear me talk. So saddle bracket here, again, rivet nuts all with pneumatic machines, so it's all consistent, right? So the key to this here is where you're gonna get in here, you're gonna get your saddle bracket kit that has, now these are specific. These bolts here are specific to these. You cannot use them, well, you can use them up front, but you'd be wasting them. So these are shorter, these are 3/4 inch. We have our washers here, and there's purpose behind having this 3/4 versus an inch on the others, and this is for these saddle brackets. So when you get this kit, know that these here, all those bolts and washers go on the outside through the extrusion and connect to this here saddle bracket. So that's part of the kit. You're gonna get your saddle bracket top hardware, right? Again, bagged and tagged. You're also gonna get your saddle bracket bottom hardware. It's a T-nut and nuts and bolts, and you'll see why. So that's what you're gonna get with that. In addition to the back half has its own hardware kit for other things as well, but this is primarily what you're gonna get there. So the first thing, and with the Magic TV, actually one of them slipped out right here, so I had to kind of maneuver it back into place. And that's just something really to watch for. So keep them straight, keep them straight, keep them in, keep them in. And if you want to avoid that from happening, snug one up, snug one up, snug one up, and snug one up. And there you have it. There you go. So now we've done that. I'm gonna walk to the other side and I'm gonna do the same thing over there. And again, we're gonna do this on both sides, and this is naturally gonna take shape and start to contour in because I've already tightened them up as well. So I'm gonna do this next half. I'll come back and I'll show you the result and we'll go through our adjustment. Okay guys, I'm gonna be off camera again, and we're gonna be working on the back half of this rack. And these are what's called the saddle brackets that we made. This is the fun part of the rack. It's really kind of a cool thing what we've done here. I'm gonna give you the end result and then walk you through the process of putting them on. So the end result is here, that the bracket swivels, and this is how we're gonna get the contour to the back half of the rack. So this is loose, and the idea, here's what you want in the beginning. And what I do is I kind of pull it out just a 1/4 of an inch, and I just tighten this just enough to where it snugs up. What that allows me to do is still maneuver the bracket here, because we're going to need that when we're going to get the contour of the back half of the rack done. So walking you through the process of the saddle bracket, we have our 1/4-20 rib nuts. We have our shortened 1/4-20 screws that we have washers that we're going to feed from through the 3/16 into here. You can't have these too long because it would end up hitting there. We wouldn't be able to maneuver the rack. So we had to go with a shorter bolt. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first steps first is you have your T-nuts. You slide those into the bottom of the bracket here. And it's both symmetrical, so top is top, bottom is bottom. So wherever you put this, these are the bottom half. There's a hardware marked saddle bracket bottom hardware. That's on the bottom, right? The top is gonna be the button head. So once you put that in here, you're set with step one. Step two, take in the drop-in nut sert and put it on the outsides here, like that, not in the middle, but the outside, because that's gonna give us our swivel. What you wanna do is you wanna push this up just a little bit, get it started into that extrusion, right? There we go. Come over here and do the same thing, lift it up a little bit, slide it over, and it slides over and push it all the way up to the edge. What you want to do is take your Allen wrench, the 5/32, and just kind of line it up. And I have over here our button head screws and a washer. And what you want to do is you want to start that in just like that. Get it started. Drop one here. Use your tool to get it lined up. You can also pull this out a little bit once it gets lined up. And there you have it. And the goal here is to have this movable like that again so we can do our contour. And so I pull it out about 1/4 inch. I snug up the back one just to where it kind of cinches in, but it allows me to move it here. And again, that's what we're looking for. You want to do this first to all of them ahead of time. So I'm going to work on these other two. I'm going to walk through the complete process again on this other one. And I'll probably shut the video off, get it complete, and then take you to the next step. So I've got my drop-in nut certs, I've got my T-nuts, I've got my button heads here, I've got a couple of washers. And the one thing that I haven't shown you on the back half over here is that I put on the 1/4-20 washer and then a nut on here as well, because you're going to tighten it from both sides. And that's what cinches this thing up and keeps the contour. So once I've turned this over again, it'll look like that. You take your washer, drop it on like that. Grab some nylock, 1/4-20s, and all the hardware we use is black oxide, stainless steel, all American standard. 1/4-20, 1/4-20. Flip it, and again, you're going to want this on all these, on both sides, and then we'll attach it here. So again, I'm going to do one more, then I'll go off camera, get the rest done, and then we'll go through the assembly process. So again, we're going to drop in our nut certs here. I use the duals just because I like to be able to maneuver them by using the tool. It's really handy to do so. I grab a couple of my T-nuts here. I've established which one's my bottom by doing that first. They fit snugly in there. There we go. And again, what we want to do is want to push it up just a little bit to get it started in, like lay the top of it over. You push it up just a little bit, get it started in the extrusion. Go to the second one, push up, and there you have it. It's on there again. You take your tool, there it's lined up there. You take a washer, put it over the top of this thing here just like this, drop it in, get that going, and it's a pretty simple process after that. So you take again, push all the way in, pull out about 1/4 inch, snug it right there so it's movable, and that's to allow it from not falling off as well, because you don't want to have to do work twice. So I'm going to repeat that process all the way around, and when I'm done I'll come back and we'll show you how to attach this together. It's a little bit of tension, which is good because that's telling us that this thing needs to be lined up still. So we get it started, we start to get it tightened up here. It's now taking shape. So I take my 3/8, my plate, I feed it through just like I did the other side. And again, these all have nylock on them. On these here, I'd like these really snug because it's a form of securing the rack down. So I like to tighten up the 3/8. Once you get it all lined up, I like to have them just a little bit, more snug. Just makes me feel comfortable that it's really tight, because that's a connection point. So now there's tension on this plate here, and there's tension because now it's pushing together now. So that's good news. So we put in the nut and bolt, snug it down, and I'm going to come back on that side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start tightening things down. And that's where the magic's really starting to happen. So these have already been secured back here. I'm going to tighten this one down. Tighten this one down. And now that natural bow has already happened. It's incredible, guys. It looks really good. It's really, really nice. So I'm going to come over here. And there's a lot of pressure on the side because again, there we go. It tightened right back into place. It's straightened up. I tightened it in place. And that's what you want. Again, you want to make sure all this stuff now gets tightened up and its natural shape's going to take form based upon you tighten it up. There you go. So now I'm going to grab this here, tighten these last few, and I'll come back on the other side and grab the camera, and I'll show you kind of how the contour just happened. And again, I know, guys, it's extremely intimidating in the beginning to see there's a lot of nuts and bolts here, and it's actually not that complicated. You just have to put the right bolts in the right spot, well, the length, so that's why I've separated them. The back will have the back hardware for the back portion of it, and the front will have the front hardware, so you're never out of sorts on what you need. So yeah, this thing is taking shape really, really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this here real quick, guys. And there's one thing I just noticed here, that the rack itself is actually in this shape. It's somewhat maneuverable because it's long. So when you put in either L brackets here, and you put an L bracket in the back and one in the front, you're able to establish what your width is. And once you get it settled in, tighten it down, and you're good to go. So I'm going to show you a couple other tips here in a second, but I'm going to take you off screen and put it around the front so you can see what the contour looks like. All right, guys. So now that we've connected the two pieces together, and again, as I mentioned, this is somewhat movable because you're not all the way tightened. So tighten the back up, right? Get your angles all established here, and once you're on the truck, and again, once this thing is snugged up, and I like keeping one of these snug, like this one here, I forgot to tighten. We tighten that one there, and now it's not going to come off. But you see now, this contour starts grabbing and going out. It's really cool what happens in the end. So again, if you look at the top of this, you'll see the stagger in these bolts here. You can actually maneuver it a little bit, and again, tighten them down. And you can almost put it pretty secure and know just by building it here, it's gonna fit the shape of the vehicle already, because you can see the contour. It's really nice, guys. So what I would do, after I got all these snugged up here and tightened along with the sides here, I flip it over, and the 1/4-20s on the bottom and the back here, you'll need to tighten up. So you tighten these up here with your 3/16. I've done the other side, but you'll just have to tighten these all down. I wanted everything kind of loose because I was still putting things together. So now it's tight. And what I like to do is I like to get it snug. And after I get the rack on, I go over all these in the end and make sure that I have my little, I tighten it with my one little kick like that to make sure everything's tightened. The most important ones to do, because the rack will be on, is going to be the ones underneath that you can't reach. You need to make sure those are all tight prior to you setting the rack on top. Okay, so now we've got that. The rack is pretty secure now, guys. That's actually the whole rack in itself. It's not that bad if you build it in 2 pieces and join it together in the center. And I'm gonna grab a port adapter. And extremely important, guys, that when you're using the port adapter, that this washer has to be in place. This washer has to be in place right there, guys. So port adapter goes in, washer goes on top, this goes over it, and then you leave it like that on the rack. Your L brackets that fit here, here, and in the back actually sit on top of it, and then you put this bolt through it, okay? So what that's gonna look like, let me grab an L bracket here, because there's some question as to what that was for. It serves as a spacer on the R1T bed rack. We don't need those, so we pull them out, but in an effort to keep things just kind of all similar when we're making them, we kept the washer in there. So once this bracket is on here and attached in its 3 positions like this here, okay, what you're gonna do is you're gonna put this all in together, lined up without the bolt. I'm gonna move a little closer in a second here, guys. Okay, and it's gonna go as it follows, and I'm just pretending this is attached to this already. Port adapter in the port, washers, this goes over. Now that's sitting on top, and what you have to do is you have to kind of maneuver it, and you got access right here, get them all lined up and set the rack on top of it just like that. And you'll probably have to get a tool and maneuver it through, but once you set that through there, this bolt goes through here. I'm gonna mess that up, and you notice there's a little cut out here. That's to go over the little bar that's in the way there. But once you have that established, that over there, again, that's a little hard to do because it's not in the port. This runs over it and through, and that's how you end up manipulating kind of the rack. And if you want it tighter, you squeeze it in the back, tighten it down, and pull it out in the front, and you tighten it down. So you have a lot of play here once you get up there to make up for this curve in the back. So that's the bed rack, or the roof rack, installed, I put together with our saddle brackets. All these here are clean. They go to the saddle bracket back here. Again, make sure everything's tightened up here. And if you want to leave it snug so you can form a little bit on the top, you can do that. You might want to, and I guess there's 2 ways to go about it. You can take it off and retighten everything, or you could leave it there and tighten everything on top, which might be easier. Then you get a ratcheting 1/4-20 and tighten all these up here while the rack's on there. You have access to them, so you don't have to back the rack back off. But there it is, guys. There's the contour. Looks pretty cool, and it's not that hard. There we go, guys. All right. Well, guys, thank you for joining us. I know this is a quick video. I want to go a little bit more in depth and some close-ups when I have some help here. But I hope you enjoyed, the basic fundamentals of putting this rack together. It's not that complicated. If you build the front half first, then the second half, and it helps to have a long table, guys. It really does. Marry the 2 together. You'll start to see the thing conform. There's downloadable instructions on our website at overlandroughracks.com under installation guides. You can get the basic installation of the front of the rack, And again, it goes for all of our racks, whether it's a condo rack, a stealth rack, an R1T, R1S, they all go together the same way. So the instructions can walk you through most of it. The tips that I gave in the front will be helpful for the R1S and the R1T are very helpful. What we're not covered yet is the back of this here yet. I haven't had them covered because I have to do some drawings and make them kind of show how to do this. It's easier said than done. That's why I wanted to do this video, so y'all can see it and how it goes together and how it can form. So again, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, send an email to us. You can reach us via Instagram. You can call our 800 number. Just whatever it takes, guys. Again, we pick up the phone. We're super interested in helping you guys out because I know this is new. And guys, believe me, it's somewhat intimidating. I do understand that. And that's why I wanted to kind of do this. And I showed you, I actually built this rack by myself. And although I've designed it and made it myself, sometimes I forget little things, and it's nice for me to do this as well. But it shows that you can actually build this rack yourself. Now, what I do not suggest, there's two things. I do not suggest you lift this thing up yourself and try to put it on top. You'll scratch your vehicle. Not cool, not fun. Protect your vehicle at all times. Get a couple buddies. I suggest 4, 1 in each corner to lift it up, walk it over, set it down on the port adapters and start doing your adjustments there. The second one is power tools. Don't use power tools, guys. What I'm looking for is when you tighten something down, I need you to get the 3/16, for example. I want you to feel what it feels like. You get that tight and that one little nice, you know what it feels like. That way you can be super consistent across the board on how this thing's tight. Remember, aluminum binds. You don't need Loctite. If you like it, you put a dot and not a lot. If you never plan on taking the rack off, it wouldn't hurt you. Just have a friend helping you put a dot on each one of them. So what I do suggest is putting the blue Loctite, maybe even yellow on these here. It certainly wouldn't hurt you. But again, I don't want you to be intimidated by it, guys. Enjoy it. It's an experience. And it's good to know how your rig's being put together. And it's certainly helpful. So I hope you enjoy these tips. Last key thing is, forgot to tell you again, anywhere where there's a T-nut, whether it's here, up there on front fascia, holding in, or on the quarter round extrusion, remember to put it on first, always, because you can't access it when the side places in. Other than that, guys, that's the roof rack installation. R1T, guys, same process, it's just that it's leveled out. And the only difference you're gonna see, guys, is that the R1S, we drop down right here and drop the tent level, and we raise the extrusions up so the tent will not hit on the sides. As it goes back here, it has maybe a 1/16 of an inch higher just because of the bolt holes, but it tends to just sit level now because we moved it down a little bit. You have a level surface to work from. It drops down so the contours with it, and then because you have some larger tents, it sits down in a pocket. That's the difference between the R1S and the R1T. R1T, it's basically straight across because it's a traditional roof rack. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Any questions, again, give us a call at our 800 number, reach out Instagram, shoot us an email. And guys, I really thoroughly want to, and I personally thank you guys. This has been a great journey for me as well. I'm excited for you guys to have this, so enjoy. Thank you.